Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, we visit with David Widmar from Agriculture Economic Insights. While we have turned the calendar, we want to review a little bit more about 2020 and the situation on the farm and ranch. Is that really like it is in the 80s? Well, these guys did some research, and you might be surprised what they found. We'll also have features from the Kansas Soybean Commission, Kansas Department of Agriculture, and Kansas Sorghum, plus our weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and market information from Pinion, a division of K-Coe Isom.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, KFB.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com.
In agricultural news from agview.net, the most recent stimulus package passed by Congress reauthorized the Paycheck Protection Program, so remaining funds from last year could be used, and new funds were provided for a new round of those who can document deep losses in 2020 as well. Enrollment is now opening up. For the remaining funds at $140 billion from the first round of the program, modifications were included to better assist those smaller farmers and ranchers with few or no additional employees who file a Schedule F for tax purposes. In the past, farmers and ranchers were required to use net profit, that's line 34 on that Schedule F, to determine payroll for an operation with no employee payroll. Well, this has now been changed to allow farmers to use gross income, which is line 9, instead of their personal payroll for the purposes of self-employment. If a producer's gross income higher than $100,000, then the producer will be limited to $100,000 to calculate a salary, which effectively means one may qualify for a PPP loan up to $20,833. So consistent with the past, the loan will be forgiven if certain conditions are met. The calculation changes if the operation has an employee on the payroll. Anyone considering a PPP loan should discuss the decision with his or her banker. Well, the deadline to change your ARC PLC election for the 2021 crop year coming up March 15th. Now, this will be the first opportunity for producers to make an annual decision regarding their ARC or PLC election. Now, if you'd like to make that change for the 2021 crop year, you must make an appointment with your FSA office to avoid being put in the same election that you chose in 2019 and 2020. With many commodity prices climbing recently, many are speculating that producers might elect to go ARC-CO, which may be a little more attractive for 2021. But before making this decision, they say, remember, changes were made to ARC-CO in the 2018 Farm Bill. That will mean the price side of the revenue target in ARC will be based on 2015 through 2019 prices rather than 2016 through 2020. And remember, if the ARC-CO, you cannot purchase supplemental CO or that county-based crop insurance, which may well be more attractive and efficient against county-wide losses in the coming year. And the Farmers Veteran Coalition opening applications for the 2021 funding through their Farmer Veteran Fellowship Fund. Applications will remain open through February 14th. FVC, a national nonprofit, serves nearly 25,000 veterans turned farmers. Through education and resources, FVC helps veterans with their own farming operation or with finding employment in related agricultural professions. Over the last 10 years, FVC has provided more than 600 veterans with $3 million in equipment. You can learn more farmvetco.org. More ag news at agview.net. Stay with us. More in a moment.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed Find them on the web at oldseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
And joining us now is David Widmar, one of the principals of Ag Economic Insights. David, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here today. Thanks a lot.
I think a lot of folks maybe have heard about your company, you and your partner, and have really kind of hit the ground running a little bit, a couple of years ago, and really have become some of the leaders as far as the thought leaders, if you will, on what's going on in agriculture, economics, the economy of agriculture. I guess before we get into much detail, let's get your take on how things are. It seems like we are continuing to be bombarded with so much information, and I think farmers kind of just go, okay, what do we do with all this information?
Yeah, I think if we're going to summarize the farm economy in 2020 in one word, it's whiplash. We started the year with the hopes and the rumors of a trade deal, and we got that in January. And then by the time we got to the spring, we had the pandemic and commodity prices. I mean, remember oil traded negative there for a day or so, and a lot of questions of how low could everything go. And then corn, of course, got to a low of 320 by the middle of August. And then now we're looking at 410. It's sort of jumped a lot in a short period of time. We've had a lot of ad hoc stimulus coming into the forefront. So we've gone from feeling pretty good to feeling really a lot of angst, and now we're back to the upside of this here in 2020. I don't think any of us would have predicted in the 6 months ahead of us to ever play out like it did. So whiplash is definitely the way we would describe that.
Well, it seems like we still had that hope of a very strong harvest till the last few weeks. Mother Nature kind of dealt, especially the Western Corn Belt. Still crops are okay, but not the anticipation, not what the pencil had down for what we were going to see for returns.
Mother Nature's dealt us a lot of unexpecteds here in 2020. We are actually looking at the second biggest prevent plant. Of course, it's behind 2019. It's about half as big as 2019. But if we roll back 15 years of data, it's still the second largest prevent plant. So that was the first crack at the production side that Mother Nature took. And then, as you mentioned, yields are starting to be coming in. And turns out that dry weather in August and September, as many feared, shaved off some of those bushels. And so we're seeing yields walking lower. So this combination of strong trade, strong exports, strong usage, combined with smaller prevent plant, or I guess fewer acres planted from a big prevent plant, and the smaller yields coming in, really have set this commodity market up for a lot of excitement in the last 3 months.
CFAP, this Coronavirus Food Assistance Program, really boosting farm incomes, but it's going away.
Yeah, so we were on the third year of ad hoc. MFP in 2018, then 2019, CFAP. What's unique about CFAP is it's a big pie, right? It's a very big, so probably more than $40 billion in direct payments by the time they tally it all up. But it's a lot of slices. So livestock producers are getting payments, and they're traditionally not a big part of these payment programs from the USDA. So a lot of slices coming out of the big pie. But what you mentioned is the most important part here. It's ad hoc. There's nothing on the books for next year. We're wondering, where will we be in direct payments? There's always a farm bill, but those are probably $10 to $15 billion in annual spending, and we're coming off $40+ billion. And so there's a quick adjustment that's possible. We got to really focus on this. As you mentioned earlier in the segment, producers kind of want to throw their hands up in the air and saying, there's so much news. How do I move through that? Well, we really got to step into that uncertainty and sort of cultivate our thinking and challenge ourselves to cut through the noise and find the key insights as we think about 2021 and ahead.
David Widmar, Ag Economic Insights, is joining us. Let's take a break. Come back with more in just a moment.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum. Growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. Grassandgrain.com and agview.net, serving the Beef Belt and Western Corn Belt with reliable and relevant agriculture information. agview.net.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
This is David Widmar, one of the principals of Ag Economic Insights, or Agricultural Economic Insights. I want to make sure we get all the formal names out there. But David, you all have attempted and have done a project that I think many folks will find interesting. There's been so much discussion of the current state of the farm economy. How does it relate to the 80s? And you all did a deep dive into that.
Yeah, it's a question we get asked a lot, almost every time we're speaking to a producer group. How does today compare to the 80s? And it's a hard question. In some cases, it's very similar. The fall of net farm income, high levels of farm debt, a trade situation gone belly up. But on the other hand, it can't be more different with inflation and interest rates. And so it's been interesting. How do we tell that story? And we've been writing a blog post for years and writing behind on AEI Premium, but it's hard to tell that story. So we partnered, Brent Gloy, my business partner, and I partnered with Sarah Mock, a rural freelance reporter, and we're telling the story of escaping 1980. It's what were the pieces that led up to that fretful period in that decade of challenges in the farm financial economy, but also the key lessons and what can we learn or what shouldn't we learn from that period, and how do we move that forward. I think one of the things to keep in mind is we all are living with lessons from the 1980s. Either we grew up and experienced them personally, or we've grown up hearing the stories. So the 1980s casts a long shadow, and we have to be really careful with how we think about that and how we can navigate that for 2020 and beyond.
If folks want to grab that podcast and also look at some of the offerings that AEI has, your company, how can they access those?
Well, the easiest way is our website, aei.ag. They can sign up for the free weekly newsletter. The podcast links are available, or also our services, our subscription. But Escaping 1980, again, is a 7-part podcast series. We're dropping a weekly episode. We're on episode 3 this week. Those are available for free anywhere you listen to podcasts. So Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also just Google search that and it comes right up. I'm biased, but I think it's unique. I don't think anything else out there like this in ag. We worked really hard to try to tell this story. It's funny because we initially thought, how will we ever fill 7 episodes? And now we're getting people calling us and emailing us saying, what about this? And what about that? Or you should have elaborated on this. So it's funny how when you start to look back at those 2 decades, really the 70s and the 80s, a lot happened in American history, but also agricultural history.
With insight in your name, I have to ask this, looking at 2021, bearish or bullish looking at production agriculture?
You know, it's a different tone just from the last few weeks. And so one of the questions we're asking producers is, what's the probability of the December 2021 corn contract getting over $4.25? It's around $4 a bushel. So can we get a rally? And on one hand, it seems it's pretty likely, right? We've had a dollar rally in the last few months. But we're trying to encourage producers, in light of all this uncertainty, is to ask themselves critical questions. Stop asking questions like, will corn rally? what's the probability of this size of a price change being possible on this time frame? And that's going to help them sort through the uncertainties, look for the key insights and implications. I think if we're thinking about 2021, we have to realize 2020 has been impacted by strong usage, which is positive, but also a production cut. And those production cuts aren't guaranteed next year between prevent plant and below trend yield. So we got to keep that in mind.
David, we appreciate all those insights on everything that's going on. Again, encourage folks to go and download the podcast as well. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ken.
David Widmar with Agriculture Economic Insights has joined us. Stay with us. More coming up.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Dare to Compare. That's the name of a new campaign launched by the U.S. Soybean Export Council to show consumers how U.S. soy tops the global market in sustainability. Sustainability goes deeper than simply being a buzzword in agriculture. Consumers are consistently seeking sustainably sourced and made products. U.S. soy delivers. Farmers were already ramping up sustainability practices as far back as the 1930s after conservation measures were passed post-Dust Bowl. Today, conservation methods look a little different, but are still a priority. Cover crops, no-till and strip-till, terraces, grass waterways, and buffer strips allow farmers to use less water, prevent soil erosion, and decrease energy use. A years-long research process has delivered concrete numbers that prove U.S. soy does have nutrient advantages. Dare to Compare challenges soybean buyers to dive into this data about U.S. soy's nutritional profile, sustainability, and refining characteristics and see those advantages. This campaign targets animal and aquaculture nutritionists and ingredient buyers to build a preference for U.S. soy. The Kansas Soybean Commission supports this work of USEC by membership and project funding. Visit daretocompare.ussoy.org to see the U.S. soy advantage for yourself.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
We've all become experts in remote learning and online meetings, and the Kansas Department of Agriculture is no different. We have shifted the way we serve the public to allow for virtual participation for a wide variety of our experiences. While we miss seeing you here in the KDA building or in person across the state, we have appreciated the way these online activities have expanded the reach of the information shared to allow for more people to participate. Last summer, where our animal health staff was working to respond to an outbreak of vesicular stomatitis virus in horses, we worked with the Kansas Horse Council and K-State Research and Extension to provide information via educational webinars. We really kicked it into gear in August when we realized our annual Ag Growth Summit would need to be virtual. So instead of 21 meetings in one day, we spread those events across several weeks and were able to involve many more people, including some who had never been able to make it to Manhattan for the event. Over the last few months, we have offered webinars about a wide variety of topics, from COVID-safe practices for agritourism to Kansas feral swine management plan. We declared the first week of January Meat Week, as we offered a series of free webinars to help with meat marketing in a direct-to-consumer business model, including one designed for consumers who are interested in buying meat direct. We're hosting a monthly food safety webinar beginning the end of January. February will feature a webinar series for farmers market managers and vendors and others who sell food directly to consumers. and plans are underway for a webinar discussing the challenges of seasonal workers in the agricultural workforce. Most of our webinars are recorded and can be found on our YouTube channel, and upcoming events can be found on the events section of the KDA website at agriculture.ks.gov/events. Thanks for being part of these new experiences with us, and we hope to see you online.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the soybean checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
With strong demand for grain sorghum in 2020, producers saw record prices throughout the sorghum belt, according to the Sorghum Checkoff's Regional Director for Kansas, Zach Simon, as he writes in the latest edition of NSP's Sorghum Grower magazine. As Simon says, historical data shows prices flatten or decrease as farmers bring in the harvest each fall, but this past year was surprising. Basis moved up this summer as the sorghum harvest in South Texas began, and basis continued its upward climb as harvest progressed north into Kansas. In fact, sorghum basis made the jump from even or slightly negative in early spring to plus 200 at the end of 2020. Driving this demand was the return of China's hog population after the herd was decimated in 2018 by illness. China's 2021 import needs for coarse grains could be double the amount imported last year with pork production back online. Here at home, familiar risks to production still remain, such as weather and pest pressure. Thankfully, you can manage these risks with the right approach. Some steps that Simon outlines include setting up a production budget, developing a grain marketing strategy, and sticking to the plan. Producers should prepare right away, however, and may be interested in Kansas State University's self-paced online course, Finances and the Farm, designed to enhance your farm management skills, credit for which can also fulfill FSA borrowers' requirements. Find more information on that course and much more at ksgrainsorghum.org, and be sure to subscribe and listen to the latest episodes of the Sorghum State Podcast wherever you choose to listen. For Kansas Grain Sorghum, this is Adam York.
Kansans are saving money and getting quality coverage with Kansas Farm Bureau health plans.
We've had the Kansas Farm Bureau health plan since January. Had great success using it. We picked up some prescriptions and that was fully covered, and that was amazing to us because years past we've had the flu in our household and we've had to pay about $115 out of pocket for that one prescription. So knowing that we have the ability for an antibiotic or things like that we may need, that it's covered, is a really great feeling.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
U.S. Cattle Trace, the industry-driven initiative for animal disease traceability based in Kansas, now has a model in place for those interested in becoming a member of the organization. As a not-for-profit that securely maintains and manages data collected as part of disease traceability, U.S. Cattle Trace members will provide guidance to the producer-led board of directors regarding the direction of the organization. In addition, members will receive benefits such as access to educational materials, networking opportunities in other industry segments, and up-to-date news regarding traceability. Annual membership is offered in 4 categories, including cow-calf producer, auction market, feed yard, and allied industry. Dues are $25 for individual cow-calf producers, $100 for auction markets, and $1,000 per location for feed yard members. Allied industry dues are based on the gross revenue of the entity. According to U.S. Cattle Trace Executive Director Callahan Grund, without buy-in from all segments of the cattle industry, disease traceability will not be available. To learn more about U.S. Cattle Trace or how to become a member of the organization, visit uscattletrace.org.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Darren Van Vactor with Pinion, division of K-Coe Isom. The grain markets as a whole have had a different look after the long weekend. For the first time in a while, we've had a few consecutive down days. In some other circumstances, this would look more burdensome. But right now, we are sitting in the upper ranges of the last 5 years for corn, soybeans, and wheat. It is definitely worth noting there is a potential fundamental reason for the move, as South American weather has been closely monitored and heavily debated. One can find a narrative for either side of things regarding conditions. It appears soybean bulls took some risk off the table this week as the forecasted rains fell, improving the overall soil profile for the time being. The South American crop, specifically soybeans, will be watched closely regarding its impact on world supply. Corn held most of last week's gains as the USDA tightened ending stocks a little more than folks expected, but did come off the recent highs due to the South American moisture headline. Wheat continued its rally after the report as Russia bumped its export tax higher. There is a potentially bullish headline looming regarding weather with a good chunk of wheat country lacking moisture. The situation will become more pressing as wheat breaks dormancy. This recent rally has opened up a lot of opportunity. It might be time to take advantage. Questions? Give us a call. 888-452-8751. I'm Darren Van Vactor. Be safe and have a great week.
Well, that's our show this week. Be social with us online at kansasagreport.net or social media channels. As we continue to work our way through this pandemic, we all need to do our part. So wear a mask, social distance, wash your hands several times a day. If you're not feeling well, please stay home. Let's continue to be Kansas strong. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.